The first question asks what we learned and didn't know before globalization. Something I took away from the reading is that it can bring the world and different cultures together. It allows ideas to be shared. Think of globalization as one giant family or a giant tree. At the core of what it is, globalization is, in essence, a branching out of ideas. Whether it is idea power, which is intangible or physical space, which could be businesses that expanded globally to other countries. This is what it means to entertain the idea of globalization. Look at the Apple Store, which is built on soil in many different countries, and the many items it sells. Parts of the Apple iPhones and Mac computers are heavily made in China. This is globalization at its finest, because while it's developed in one place, it's sold in many other places, which each has its own culture. And these cultures tend to adapt to the new influence. When we hear the president constantly say, we need to bring jobs back to America once again, what analysts of globalization are hearing is that he does not necessarily subscribe to the supporting of globalization. Also, look at for a moment, if you will, the scenario where the company who produces aspirin is approached by a company on the other side of the world. They claim that with the research they've done, they can create a cancer wonder drug using aspirin as a basis while building upon that data. While the physical product of this scenario might not come to fruition for a very long time, the intangible part of what the companies would be doing is two companies sharing information and creating something that would be used by or would benefit not only the nation's people, but also the rest of the world population. This would be globalization. The second question was, discuss the importance of globalization as it relates to communication in organizations. Now, the main drawback to globalization is that due to the fact that while it's a great accomplishment to have entities of your business operating in multiple countries, this opens up the door to a lot of miscommunication if you're not careful. Being a communication major, I found that troubling because I want nothing more than for people to get along and to understand what another is saying. It's important to note this within organizations because there's a lot of things that can go wrong, hence the emphasis on the importance of it. The concept of globalization will tend to open up language barriers that will more or less hinder the company's ability to understand or fix the problems if they're not understanding it. With this, there's also various cultural and religious aspects of consumers' lives that need to be looked at when the company starts to branch out. There are going to be consumers that throw up their hands and say no way to foreign business reach. As many have seen while watching news telecasts, many Americans are leery of alternate viewpoints, whether this is in the form of refugee from another country coming to the U.S., or somebody who's leaving poverty in another kind of cruelty in their country for a better life. The influence is not always going to be fully accepted. Something that a manager has to look at in America is whether or not the work area has been diversified. Because of what the basis of America is, which is this giant melting pot of different viewpoints and ways of doing things, a manager has to make sure that his or her company is well representing all of the people, all of the differences. This will tend to breed hostility because, like I said, there are those out there who just don't want to accept certain people, whether these people are working at the business or they're showing their opinions, they're talking on social media. There's people that do that too. The workplace can become a little hostile if they're workers. Part of that minority, they're going to feel nervous in their environment. So much can be learned from those who do not believe the same as everyone else. If we give others the chance to get their viewpoints out in a respectful way, give everybody a chance to be heard in the organization, then, they can be well represented. The problem is with people who are quick to judge. The workplace should be used as a vehicle that will allow employees to climb the ladder and prosper along with the company that they work for. This is one of the biggest ideas behind globalization. Work together and achieve something greater. The third question was, does globalization have an impact on your career goals? Be specific and give examples that explain how it does or does not impact your chosen career path. I'm not exactly sure where I'd like to end up right now. I know I'd like to work for a radio station or maybe a news TV station, something like that, but I haven't really thought much about it because I've been focusing on classes. I think the concept of globalization would definitely go with how operations work within stations, whether it's radio or TV, With bigger organizations, they'll be able to branch out into different countries, or specific employees will be able to go out as extensions of the company. This can enhance the quality of work done for the business by giving the employee the chance to focus on other points of view. If I were hired by someone and they sent me out to interview people in another country, I'll, in theory, be getting a richer experience with those people's stories. I would be able to learn and share. The same effect of globalization affecting this can apply to technology and innovation in the field too. If I were to become the manager of a business, I would eventually be able to share information with sister stations across the area, whether it's news or recommendations to technology to use, or, anything that encompasses that. And, that's a major reason of globalization impacting the career I'm looking at.